Hello, everybody! It is your Professor Rocco, your boy, coming at you once again with another Age of Sigmar video. In this class, we're going on a field trip, everybody! I finally got to go to another Age of Sigmar event. I've been very busy. My weekends have been taken away from me from weddings, hanging out with friends, trying to be social. I got rid of all my friends, told everyone... No, I'm kidding. I was able to actually going through the Best Coast pairing app the other week. It was like a Thursday, and I saw an event pop up on the Saturday, and I'm like, I have time. I can actually go to something. So I want to thank the Best Coast pairing app, and Garrett, too, the guy who made it, for making such a beautiful tool. Because when it works really well. And as you can see, I got to take my Deepkin with me. So what was this tournament? Alright, so first it was a charity event. The Age of Sigmar charity tournament to cure rare disorders. It was a very small tournament. I wanted to get my foot in. Because I actually haven't been to an in-person event since February. Where I did the doubles event with... Rocco, you girl, where we got second place. I have done some TTS events. I just recently got 6th place in a team tournament with one of my friends from Australia. So, you know, it was going to be like an 8, maybe a 10-person tournament. There were some drops, so the field got lower, but I'll tell you what happened there. The charity itself that we were raising money for is, the acronym is NORD, the National Organization for Rare Disorders. The link in the personal story and bio of the tournament organizer is not up anymore. So I'm just going to post a link to the charity, because also I don't know if it'd be like a too personal of a thing, if I have permission to share it. So we're going to be on the safe side here. Very cool organization. I believe the statistic I was told at the event was 1 in every 10 person knows the disease that they're actually diagnosed with, because there's just so many diseases and conditions that and disorders that just don't have like a name to put to it where it's been cataloged and known. And this is an organization that does a lot of research, so any money going to them is awesome. And to facilitate this being for charity, first off, you know, it was a $20 buy-in. Like, okay, that's cool. To get money, you could spend money before the game or during the game to buy rerolls during the game. So what does that mean? The rules were you could not reroll turn priority rolls, you could not reroll damage rolls, and as always in any Games Workshop game, you cannot reroll a reroll. So, you know, it was a fun way to raise money for charity and have fun. I'm like, okay, cool, you know. This was the Battle Scroll update came out maybe the day before, so they weren't using it. And also, as you can see, that we had to find out who the best John was. So, there were, including myself, 4 Johns. And I actually ended up playing against all of them. Which is, there were more people that were there, but, you know, it was a joke, you know, there could only be one. We had to see who was going to survive it. So, without further ado, it was a very, it was out in Alexandria, Virginia. I live in DC, so I get to go to Virginia events, I get to go to Maryland events, and I'm trying to go to stuff in DC, but again, my schedule's just been stupid. So, this is very fun to go to downtown Alexandria, like the older part of the city. It was just really cool. It was a really cool store. But let's get on to the tournament here. My list. First, you've seen the emoji around before. Just always, I like to say thank you. Hey, GM Kenny, my friend, who is a tattoo artist, a nerd connoisseur of all kinds of things, made that emoji for me. And my list is not a lar. A big fan of Shelly Baby Girl, as you see on the screen. She's done very well for me in the over 2 years I've been playing Deepkin, even when it was 2nd edition, where I used to run the Achillean Corps battalion, and everyone's like, "Oh, the turtle's bad." Like my whole shtick was making the turtle feel good and usable, and I love my Nautilus list, which I've had on the channel before. You know, I think the only update is I switched my grand strategy to the Creeping Gloomtide. Let's top to bottom this. Before it was, kill the battle line. But Creeping Gloomtide is no enemy units at the end of the game within 3 inches of the boat. My Triumph is inspired for +1 to wound. I've got an Achillean King with the bladed polearm for the extra damage on the charge. Unstoppable Fury for the extra attacks when it's high tide. Armor of the Sethai because I love its ability where if you do a 6 to hit me, you don't do the extra thing. I know it's words, it's weird. So you know how like bow snakes have like 6s to hit, do mortal wounds? This armor turns off that ability. 6s don't explode, 6s don't do mortal wounds. This is a very useful ability if you run into Lumineth Realm Lords, if you run into Daughters of Cain, if you run into someone with exploding 6s to hit. Like Sylvaneth can get that from one of their seasons. This is a very powerful debuffing tool that allows your Achillean King to just be a tank along with the save stacking. It's just very useful for me. I love it. I really do. It fits my build great. And the mount trait on the King, because you get 1 for the first King and 1 for the first turtle. The King gets Void Chill Darkness, which is the 3-inch aura of -1 to hit me. Amazing. Love it. Very survivable. The Asharan Tidecaster has the spell Steed of Tides, which is a nice little teleport to get around. Teleport a hero. I believe it's wholly within 5 inches. Usually, really, I'm just casting Mystic Shield on other units. But it's a nice spell. That or the War Scroll spell to make a unit called Riptide. To make an enemy unit within 18 inches of my caster, -1 to hit and take D3 damage. My battle line is a unit of 10 Namarti Thralls, the swordsmen. That also have like polearms, they're like great weapons. It's really cool. The Namarti Reavers, the archers, I have a block of 20. And Shelly Baby Girl in this sub-faction is battle line. Also, because I'm Nautilar, when my turtle goes to make a monstrous action, it can do it onto itself to give itself -3 rend on the bite and fin attacks. The mount trait is Reverberating Carapace, which extends the aura range of the turtle, which gives me a +1 to save for my army, if they're under 8 wounds or under, and also +1 to hit for my Namarti troops, which is amazing on those archers. Rounding out the rest of my units, I have 2 units of Aether Wings, because they are cheap bodies that I can throw up on objectives if I'm made to go first, and then die. If not, they're great screens. Deepkin have an ability where you have to shoot the nearest unit, unless it's allies. You can always shoot allies, but if they're shooting my Aether Wings instead of all of my elves, that is an amazing trade, and I love it. You know, just full stop on that. And again, the fact that they could very cheaply grab objectives and fly and run around the battlefield for me while the rest of my army focuses on whatever they need to kill, amazing. Then I have 3 Achillean Alapexes, all armed with Razor Shell harpoon launchers, because I love the shooting, I love the damage. In my mind, the 3 sharks, when you combine them together, I know they're individuals, but you combine their output together, they, to me, feel like a hammer unit. And if you've watched my list building things before, this list, everything is a hammer, pretty much, in this build. The sharks are a hammer, the thralls can be a hammer, because the thralls have an ability against 1 wound infantry to get extra attacks. If they go against something that has 3 wounds or more, they get extra damage. The archers are an amazing hammer. The turtle is just scary. The Achillean King is just a murder king. It's wonderful. I'll find there are times where I'm using my Tidecaster, because again, the rule against Deepkin is you have to shoot the nearest thing you can see. Sometimes I use my Tidecaster as a screen. I will always take the boat the Deepkin terrain feature because I need to anyway for my grand strategy. And it gives out a 5+ ward save for infantry for me that are wholly within 6 of the boat for the NORD there. And what I'll do is I will have the thralls out in front or on the side, a flank, whatever. You've seen me talk about this before, but assuming you haven't, where the thralls will then get the ward save, be within the turtle buff range. Each battle round, Deepkin get a cool rule. The first battle round is +1 to save. So I can have my NORD thralls on a 4-up save, ignoring 2 rend because of the turtle buff. You know, maybe they're inside the boat, and they're also -1 to be hit. Or even just an all-out defense. They end up being a very tanky unit with a 4-up save and a 5-up ward at the end of the day. And they're a pain to remove. It's great. Also, with this list, because I have the Asharan Tidecaster, I get to choose 2 rituals. Now, I said each battle round, the Deepkin get a new cool rule just used for that battle round. The first one is the whole army counts as being in cover. The second battle round, you can run and shoot or run and charge. The third battle round being the whole army has always strikes first. The fourth battle round being retreat and charge or retreat and shoot. It has always been or on both of those. And I don't know why people keep thinking you can do both. You can't. And the fifth battle round, the whole army's in cover again. Those first 4 battle rounds, I get a ritual. The first battle round, which is the one I like to take a lot against shooting, is you cannot shoot me unless you're within 12 inches of my Deepkin units. It doesn't affect my allies, but it makes my army very survivable in an anti-shooting army. The second battle round, which I almost always take, is +1 to run and charge rolls. It just really guarantees that I land charges, and a lot of the time I'll spend a command point on the Achillean King, who moves 14 base, so then he'll end up moving a total of 21 inches to then be 3 inches away from somebody, and then I can't fail the charge because the lowest you can roll on 2 dice, 2d6 is a 2. 2 + 1 is 3, and we make the charge. It's great. The third battle round, which I sometimes take, is on the NORD units. You get a 5-up ward save. It's good. If I am not running against a shooting army, I take that one. And then the fourth battle round is on the retreat and charge. I roll a 4-up on the units that retreat, and I do D3 mortal wounds on the way out. The fact that I have to roll for it when I have 3 other very good ones that are fighting for my attention, it's still good, but there's other things I need to worry about. And I've got a bounty hunter and a battle regiment to bring me to 4 drops. Throw one of the sharks in there because it's great. And a lot of the times what I do is I use the speed and utility of the Alapexes to set up layers of screens between the Aether Wings, the sharks, and the thralls to really protect my turtle, my Achillean King, and the archers. So the first battle round, I actually got to play against Mega Gargants on Close to the Chest, where it is the 6 objectives. We end up having the Alpha objective. This was in a previous General's Handbook at the beginning of COVID that the battle plan never really saw a lot of play, but I love it, and I love they brought it back. The point of this whole thing, how it functionally happens is you play the table long ways, not width ways there. And you deploy 9 inches off of each other's territory, and whoever goes second gets to choose who second in the, whoever's turn it isn't. That's better wording. Let's stick with that. So if it's your turn and you're, the attacker, all right, I get to choose an objective to be my primary objective, my alpha objective here. And if you take it from me, you get extra points, which is great. Half the time, honestly, people forget, and that's okay. But this battle plan's still really fun. and I matched up against Mega Gargants. So the list that I played against was there's also a gentleman from the 13th Legion. It's a gaming club that is huge in the Northeast, and they have a branch in DC. I have been meaning to go to their tournaments and events since they started doing it, and I've just been so busy. So I'm actually glad I got to meet someone from there in person after I've been talking to a few other people for a while, and it was a very fun game. Again, one of the other Johns. And he played Mega Gargants. It was 3 Gate Breakers and a Kron Spine. And you may be saying to me, Rocco, that list isn't legal anymore. You're right. But again, remember, we weren't using the battle scroll that updated the points of the Kron Spine. So this was perfectly legal. This is the last event you could have it at. That day, that weekend, the last time you could run that list where the points would be legal. And it was really cool. So let me go out here. And I remember to take pictures. It was great. Fortunately, this was the only picture of the game I took. So, also, just fair warning, there wasn't a painting requirement. My stuff is all painted, but not every opponent I played against had painted stuff. So no shaming. So what had happened was I gave away first turn, and I was able, because the current battle plan, if you go second in a battle round, you get to choose one of the objectives to be a proving ground, right? It's an objective that can only be contested and controlled by a Galatian veteran unit, which we've talked about is infantry that are 4 wounds or less that are your battle line. So because I went second, I made this objective in the bottom left, or you follow my mouse, see that token, the proving ground. This is after he moved, and this is actually the bottom of round 1, this picture. As you can see in the top right here, I threw a unit of Aether Wings up there. I screened with a shark in the middle of this terrain. This was actually, it was really good scenery. The middle mountains there are impassable. The woods at the top right and bottom left corner here are just wild woods. And then we've got a good mix of impassable terrain that you can fly over, can't land on, some things you can tuck in for cover. And I was able to redeploy on my opponent's turn my thralls so that my opponent could not make a charge. And then I had a bunch of birds. 2 of my 3 birds got shot off. And then on my turn, I was able to move up because this bottom left objective was the proving ground, take it, so that I just scored more objectives than my opponent. Because at this point they only hold 2. I hold 4. So it was score 1, score 2, score more. Did my battle tactic. I don't even remember what it was. It might have been send these birds off to this terrain for desecrate their lands. And then we had a fun time from there. And I was able to handle the Kron Spine. Because again, this 3 Gate Breakers, one of the artifacts was like the reflect mortal wounds back at you. This is the scary, very meta Mega Gargant build at the moment until the points changed. And I was able to handle the Kron Spine in 2 shooting phases. Because between all the harpoons, between my turtle and the sharks, I was able to put 18 wounds on it twice. And it killed some thralls. It was a great trade for me. And my Reavers were able to just pepper down Mega Gargant. And then my king and the turtle went and were able to mop up. And I was able to make it so that my opponent was very much just like, okay, I'm going to score battle tactics just to try to keep my tournament score up. Again, great opponent. We had a very fun time. It was a very fun game. And I was able to take the major victory by, it was like 30 to, I can look this up actually. Hold on. Hold for talent. How y'all doing? students. Oh, I'm looking this up. All right, pairings. I was able to take this 20. Okay, it's going to say 25 on the thing. I forgot to put in my grand strategy. I tabled my opponent. So I forgot to put the 3 points on at the end. But, dude, trust me. I won 28-13. Very fun game. And, I was feeling pretty confident. Again, I haven't been in a tournament in a while. When I came up there, people were saying how Alapexes weren't good anymore. And I'm like, oh, man, did I miss something? Because I've been kind of going on a Sylvaneth binge a bit. I've been looking, 40K's been kind of tempting me. I'm like, oh, no, did I miss something? And I came in here and was able to get a very convincing win. I was very happy. And then, also at this event, big shout out to the tournament organizers there. They provided pizza. We had lunch. There were apple cider donuts. It was a great time. I believe the store was called Your Hobby Place in Alexandria. Great store. Great little store. Great time. Lots of stuff. Very cool. Round 2. I then drew into my most played against army in Age of Sigmar. I have probably, between real life games, club games, tournaments, tabletop simulator, I have probably cleared 50 games of Khorne since I began playing at the beginning of 2nd edition. And we played in the presence of idols. It was actually the tournament organizer who was playing. And also, you may notice in that first game, I didn't mention the rerolls. I completely forgot to buy any or use any in that first game. Which again was the special rule of this. You spend money for charity. I'm like, okay, cool. I've got like $25 or whatever on me. This next game, I'm gonna spend. I got like $3 that are. I'll throw $3 out, see what I get. Because if you bought them before the game, they were $1. If you bought them during the game, they were $2. And I'm like, oh, it's whatever. And I was thinking about that, and then my opponent came up and was like, yeah, man, here, throwing down money. I'm like, okay, we're doing this. Cool. And so, game 2, it was the sub-faction, I'm going to forget the name, pardon me, the sub-faction that for a command ability lets you fight twice. I want to say it's Reapers of Vengeance, but someone will correct me in the comments below. There was a Scarbrand, there was a big, the Boomthirster that does the exploding mortal wounds. There were battle lines of Bloodletters. There was a unit of Blood Warriors. It was a bajillion drops to my 4. And we played on a very wonderful set of terrain on that table, which we'll get into in a second. But the battle plan here. Again, it's a hold 1, hold 2, hold more. It's good on Battle Shock for the Inspiring Icons rule, which makes this battle plan flavorful here, is that you score an additional victory point for each enemy idol unit that was destroyed by a friendly idol unit. So, you hold 1 objective, you score a point, you hold 2, hold more than your opponent, you do that, you had a battle tactic, you could start racking up the score on this pretty quickly. And this was a pretty big nail-biter of a game for me and my elves because, as you could see, that is, again, a really cool desert canyon terrain feature here. A lot of it was impassable. The bigger thing is it was really tall, and I couldn't shoot through it. This was a very big favor for my Khorne opponent. The table was drawn randomly. And I was like, whew. That was rough. That was very rough. And this is, again, bottom of battle round 1. And we had some very funny things come out. So I deployed, actually, my thralls in the boat. And I kept a very strong center. My sharks were playing the flanks here. And my goal, my first battle tactic was actually kill a unit of Galatian veterans holding an objective, which was the middle objective, which I believe was the Proving Ground too. And I did it with my Reavers. I had to pepper them off with harpoons. As you can see behind the big middle rock here, there are two bloodthirsters hiding for dear life. They have very tall wings, so I could still shoot the regular bloodthirster, but Scarbrand's over there just getting upset. And I was able to, with this shark on my right flank that was in my battalion, actually clear these bloodletters in one go, which is really cool for the extra damage of the bounty hunters. Now, this was a very back and forth game, and something I didn't say in the first game, I did not win a priority roll at all. In this game, also, I did not win a priority roll at all. And again, I made my opponent go first, so we had a very nice back and forth, very bloody. Scarbrand came in after this, was able to tag both my sharks in melee, and then with the double pile-in shenanigans, because I redeployed the birds in the middle to stop a forward attack on my archers from the Bloodthirster. But in the end, Scarbrand just got like a 12-inch charge or something ridiculous and killed them. And my turtle, so my idols were the turtle, the king, and I believe one of my sharks. And his idols were Scarbrand, the Bloodthirster, and I want to say the blood, everything's blood and corn. The Blood Warriors, if I'm remembering right. I might be wrong on the third one. It might have been the Demon Prince, but I was getting a little bit confused during this to think if it was the Bloodthirster or the Demon Prince. Because there's also, that's right, tucked behind the same rock, a Corn Demon Prince that current rules have the aura of the, have your charge roll. This was very bad for me. Not only could I barely shoot, I also couldn't charge. That's how good of a list this Corn list was. And the gentleman who played has been playing for about a decade, which was awesome. It was a very hard game, to say the least here. And what ended up happening was it was a close game up until it kind of wasn't. It was good up until battle round 3, where top of the battle round, I was able to, with Shelly, shoot the regular Bloodthirster dead and finish Scarbrand in combat. And I believe, I only had Shelly, the King, a Shark, a unit of Aether Wings. Actually, the MVPs of this game, on the left flank here, I have a unit of Aether Wings, you see. And these are a unit of Bloodletters that will eventually charge the Aether Wings. The Aether Wings killed 4 of them in combat and only took a wound in return. It was absolutely ridiculous. They lived throughout the fight. I was able to score my battle tactics again, scored my grand strategy, and also, again, hidden behind this rock. This was an amazing rock. It was Scar Bloodwrath, the Corn hero that if you kill him, he comes back in your movement, in any movement phase on an 8 or higher. And there was a lot of, I forget their name. They are the unit that gives you an aura of extra attacks, +1 attack in the Corn book. We're going to go Blades of Corn. We're doing this in real time because I love them so much and not enough people take them. These are Wrathmongers. There are 2 units of Wrathmongers with the 4 attacks, flail. And between them, also behind this rock, there was a blood sequitur with the banner for +1 attacks. Or blood secretor, excuse me. And also behind that rock, there was a slaughter priest. That rock was my opponent's MVP. There was just so much good line of sight blocking terrain. I loved this table so much. I did, because it made me have to make choices. I had to have shooting alleys. I had to play tactically. This was an amazingly close game that your boy ended up winning 30-14. Again, because Shelly kept plinking stuff for the bonus points, and I was able to just hold so many objectives. My opponent, a lot of the bloodletters were in the Expert Conquerors Battalion. I believe the Blood Warriors were as well. So the fact that I kept killing so much that I accidentally was scoring objectives I didn't think I was going to get, because it was just, this game made me have to make tough tactical decisions and bet on the dice to be on my side, even with all the buffs I could get. And I never even had low enough points to use my triumph. So it was a very, very fun and close game. And also, as a note, all my games finished 45 minutes early. In this game, we played till round 5. The first game, we talked out the last 2 rounds. But and Mega Gargant games go quick one way or the other. But it was just such a fun game, and I was feeling really good after this, that I was able to manage my opponent's blood tithe when they were able to get them. I was able to put a lot of pressure where I could. I do believe... so I did get a priority, if I remember right, 2 into 3. Where, yeah, I did, because here's what happened the third battle round. I needed to talk about my Achillean King, because he was able to go in with his crazy movement and charge that he made before to get really close. He was outside of 3. He landed another charge. I needed a 6 on the dice because of the half charge distance, and I killed the Corn Demon Prince. And I was able to get into combat with the blood guy with the banner, with the remaining God, everything is blood. Everything is blood. Blood Reavers that were there, that were being sacrificed for blood tithe points, lots of blood. And on my opponent's turn, he had to kill my Achillean King. That was his only chance of getting back into this. To kill him, or it meant to save his ability to summon off of his heroes and not be relegated to being behind, having to summon off of his Chaos Shrine, where the Corn Blood Shrine, whatever it's called, where he could control where he shows up to score objectives. If not, I'm screening him out. He can't do anything. And so he charged in everything he had and surrounded my Achillean King, who was on one singular wound. And because of my command trait, where the king himself gets extra attacks on his melee weapons, depending on how many units surround him, that gave me 6 extra attacks on the spear, well, the lance, and his little side sword he's got, right? And so I did the crazy thing of splitting my attacks, which you never should do in Warhammer, but I did. And he killed the 2 heroes and the 7 of the blood Reavers, who were just a pile of blood. I know I said at the beginning of this recap that, my most played against army. It's true, I've played about 50 games against them, but everything is blood and skulls. And, we kept making jokes, all the, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Corn cares not from whence the blood flows, only that it flows. And I was able to just put a hurtin', and it was awesome. My king stood alone. I was able to, again, pull off that 30-14 score, and I was playing for the top spot to win the event. And again, I took down my second John of the tournament. It was great. Finally, round 3. I say it was like looking in a mirror because it was the other Deepkin Nautilart player. So I have been, through second edition and now, I have only before this have been in one Deepkin mirror match. Just the one. and it was in a TTS tournament, and the list was designed specifically to win mirror matches. Where it was back in the old days where you could flip the tides to have your high tide happen earlier in your fight first and you just win. Now in the current rules, we both get high tide at the same time, right? Unless you take the tide flippy thing, I guess. But no, I think it's still at the same time. Either way, what ends up happening is when you both have always strikes first active, you alternate units. So this was going to be a big, scary... We both had a turtle. We both had the same amount of archers. He had more thralls than me. I had sharks. To his... he had a unit of 3 offensive eels, the Morsar Guard, along with the more thralls. He had a Lotan. He had... we had the same Achillean King, where I had the Tide Caster. He had an Eidolon of the Sea to be his caster, with a Arcane Tome for more magic. There were 3 casts re-rolling. It was scary. Also had the teleport spell. And, you know, the scary bit was the extra rend and melee from the spell or worsening my save, whichever way it actually works. I have mine as an aspect of the storm for melee stuff. But it was scary. And we were playing... it was great because we didn't actually have to move the objective markers. And this was actually the father of the gentleman that I just played. So he was coming for revenge for his son. And, you know, he just, like, slapped down $20 before the game for rerolls. And I'm like, okay. Throw in, like, a tenner and, you know, we'll see what's up. And the first 2 games, rerolls did not really play that big of a factor. You know, I got the son to maybe spend some more money during the game for rerolls. I really didn't put in that much more at the end. I was just gonna like give my money to the charity and, you know, whatever. And then, you know, he just throws the money down. It might have been 10 apiece because he threw first. I matched him. I'm like, all right, we're doing this. And if I remember right, I believe I got my opponent to spend $40 on rerolls. And he got me to spend like 20. It was ridiculous. There were times during this game where like he had an Unleash Hell against my Achillean King with his turtle. You know, and he missed 5 of the 8 shots. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna go and spend more money and reroll those 5 dice, and they all hit. We spent them on wound rolls. It was like 40k when they used to have all the command points to reroll everything. It was nutty. It was charges. It was saves. It was ward saves. It was just ridiculous and funny and crazy. And head-on collision here is a ridiculous battle plan. All right, because this doesn't follow the new trend of scoring. Back in the olden days, there was a battle plan called Battle for the Pass, where you fought the long way across the board. There were 2 objectives in the middle, 1 in each deployment zone. They've streamlined it to 3 total. And you, as you can see, you score 1 for holding your own objective, 2 for the one in the middle, 4 for the objective in your opponent's territory. You gain an extra victory point if you gain control of the objective with a Galatian veteran unit. And also, you cannot score objectives or control them in the first battle round. My opponent had a 1-drop to my 4-drop and made me go first, to which I, as a good not-a-lar player should, I turtled up. A mirror match versus Deepkin is a knife fight. Whoever, you know, you're dancing around, you're waiting for that opportunity to get the right jab in, the right stab in order to end them. And the moment it happens, you have to be quick and decisive. You have to have your opponent stick their neck out just that little bit more. Thankfully, I wasn't going to get high-tided off the board immediately. But this was a very cool and tactical game. And as you can see, because again, the tables, it wasn't table 1, 2, and 3, that didn't matter. I actually played on all 3 tables. It just changed just to give people, there wasn't a lot of us, but you know, I got the 2 most experienced dudes besides myself playing here, and a Mega Gargan army. I had to work for this one day, or almost like you thought I was at a GT. And also, the terrain was not line of sight blocking at all. So in the middle, by that objective there, that was impassable. That was very big in our game, because what my opponent and I realized would happen is our turtles could not charge around the terrain enough to actually fight each other in the middle of the board. So they were just staring at each other for a while. My shark on the far right there, this was after the first battle round was over. As you can see, battle round 2, I flipped my dice in the bottom left there, where my Aether Wings got shot. I have Mystic Shield on my Thralls. I did not put my boat up front because I didn't want it to block me. As you can see from my opponent, he has actually archers in the boat. There's a Lotan back there. There's archers along the side of the boat. He had 2 tents, and then a 20 block of Thralls over here. More Sar Eels. Follow my mouse here. Eidolon, his turtle, the Murder King around there. I was basically doing like a triangle defense with my shark, so my opponent couldn't just teleport at me. I screened out my back line. What I wanted to do here was play as defensively as possible, make my opponent try to overextend onto the middle objective, which his boat was actually over, so he could be in the boat and score that. It's whatever. And do whatever I could to stop those thralls from getting into me and keep the turtle busy. I won this priority roll, and I gave my opponent the turn. I gave him a double turn where, as you could see, he stayed in his deployment zone. The only thing he did different, when he had bottom of turn 1, he moved 10 archers into the boat, and then another unit of archers that was over here down to here. That was his whole movement. That was it. Me, I spread out. I was checking ranges. We both did the same ritual to stop each other from shooting. I got the second ritual off the +1 to run and charge. I was debating the ward save, but I think I did the right move here to be more aggressive, because the way you win events and tournaments and games is, sure, you can know what your opponent does for their army, what their list does, all the cool tech. You need to play to the battle plan. All right. The first battle round, the first game. Let's recap this real quick. The first game, my opponent had 4 models to contest 6 objectives, and I was able to use the proving ground, because I kept going second, to deny my opponent the ability to score an objective and stand on it, because he didn't have any Galatian veterans. The second game, I was able to spread out my opponent, take him on the flanks, and make him be out of position, because as much as I could not shoot through the terrain, and there was line of sight blocking terrain, he couldn't land on it. So he had to walk all the way around the long way, and I was able to play for 2 objectives on the flanks to force my opponent to try to overextend. And then when he did, I was able to shoot him dead and move out, because in order to get on an objective, he had to be in shooting range and in sight of me. This game, the only line of sight blocking terrain is his boat, and it's not that line of sight blocking because he garrisoned inside the boat. So we played around the impassable terrain in the middle, which, for the love of me, I could not remember during the game, because I've played on a similar terrain set back with my old club, the Basement Wargamers, where that was just like flat terrain, and then we had like buildings around. So in my mind, I could keep walking on it, and we kept having to, I'm like, but you got to correct me every time. I will forget every time. And it ended up being so impactful. And with this battle plan particularly, I had more speed than my opponent, and I was able to use it to box him in his deployment zone. His eels never moved from there. I was able to send a shark up there and pin them in place. I was able to, with my Murder King, kill 15 or 16 of his thralls. I shot dead all of his reavers. I was able to, I got the turn, and I was able to just be super aggressive. And again, after I gave away the double turn, 1 into 2, I ate the shooting. So his battle tactic the second turn was to kill my thralls. He didn't. My armor saves were able to, with an all-out defense, the Mystic Shield, and the Turtle Aura. I was fine. I think I was down to maybe 2 thralls, maybe 1, but I lived. And I was able to rally back up to a unit of 5, contest the middle objective that I made the proving ground, and I just pushed him to stay in his deployment zone. I made his turtle have to chase sharks, or else I was going to steal his home objective, and I screened out my home objective so that I was not ever worried about a teleport and then charge in. I was able to dictate the tempo, and up until the last turn, it was score-wise a lopsided game. But again, if you score your opponent's objective, you score 4 points. Now, you could have a 9-point swing if you score everything right, and if you score objectives with Galatian veterans, you score more. I was probably never going to get my grand strategy, so I gave up on it. And his grand strategy was have more units in my territory than have him have more units in my territory than me. Words were hard. So I was worried about denying him and just keeping it close, knowing that I probably had it on the math. And out of pure, unadulterated spite, because that was what was going to happen, we knew it, we were playing it out for battle tactics and practice, my opponent went and wanted a turtle fight in the middle. As you can see on the right of your screen, there was a turtle duel. There was a Lotan. His turtle made like a 12-inch charge or something ridiculous to get over the terrain finally. And I had a unit of 5 archers. Also there was his Murder King, who lived until the very end because it was always like +3 to its save. The only thing that killed it was mortal wounds from my turtle and from my Tidecaster's spell. It was absolutely ridiculous how awesomely his last stand was. It was great. And my guy again died horrifically from a rerolled Overwatch. And I want to say my opponent spent $40 by the end of the game. And I spent 20. And we raised some good money for charity out of this. And what he wanted was, he realized that also he used the spell that's the Gur Realm spell to make a unit count as half as what they should normally on an objective. And so my turtle is counting as 2.5 models. My shark is counting as 2. Lotan is 2. His turtle is 5. If he scores that middle objective, I am actually in a very scary position where we could tie the game. And then it goes down to battle tactics, which I scored more. But it was just looking like if he did it, he could have scored his battle tactic, and it was just crazy. So he's like, listen, I know I charged in here for the turtle duel, but I need to kill the shark. I need to kill the unit. And then, he's got a shot at scoring enough points to win. And he did. And I'm like, well, Shelly came here to duel. And she's got her neg-3 rend. And that both turtles are on top bracket, 16 wounds, a 2-up armor save. He was out of command points. And Shelly went into that turtle. When the turtle's profile for the bite. If you roll a 6 to hit, you do 6 mortal wounds to a monster, 3 if it's a normal unit. I got a 6 and I got a bite through. That was 9 wounds down in one go. And then we had the fin attacks. I used my last reroll to reroll one of the fins, so they all wounded. And I killed his turtle in one go. It was a crazy moment. It was just an awesome moment. It was an extremely fun and tactical game of trying to figure out what to do, when to go aggressive, when to hold back. I was able to get the always strikes first turn first. Not that it really mattered, because everything just died on both sides. It was extremely bloody. I believe I ended the game with a shark, my turtle, Shelly baby girl, and the my tidecaster. I think that was just it. And I only controlled the middle objective at the end, and I ended up winning the game 24-20, where he just barely almost clawed that back. And again, with this, I was able to bottle him in his deployment zone for just so long until that final turn, honestly. He never, except for a teleport with his caster and a teleport with his king, he never got beyond the 50-yard line of our table with anything else in his army. And his caster never got into combat. The king was annoying, but I weathered the storm. And my king died horrifically, by the way. The cool thing was my shark in the battalion mopped up everything the king couldn't, which is great. And again, it was just so many things where I was able to utilize the utility and the speed of the sharks, always having the harpoon shooting, the good melee profile. And again, when you do extra damage into a Galatian veteran unit with the Bounty Hunter Battalion and the bites become 3 damage, the riders become 2 damage, it helps a lot. And it was a great game. And so how did we all end up with all the points and everything tallied? I won! I won the event! Hold on 1 second. We're gonna... 1 second. Yeah, I won the event. You could see me all covered in all my hair and all my beard and all the sweat, and it was great. You also hear in the background my lovely assistant over here. To see, it's real, it's in person. The grand prize of the tournament was this lovely, lovely Mega Gargant. It's awesome. Holy cow, I've got a quarter of a Gargant army right here in one box. And again, at the end of the day, the really important thing is the charity. There was a matching thing. We were able to raise $500 for the event out of, God, there might have been 6 of us. But that was a lot of money for 6 people to raise. And the store was great. And this was the hardest one-dayer. I don't know why I ran into this at a one-day tournament. And that is why you should run and go to all your one-day tournaments, not just your GTs. Because when you get to see more of your local community, this is probably the 3rd or 4th game store in the area that I've been to that's run events, which is awesome. Each one has their own group of people. And you just never know what you're going to see in a one-day event. Because as a Deepkin player, you, again, in over 2 years of me playing this army, I've seen other Deepkin players in the wild. Usually it's 1 or 2 of us at an event, though. And this, I got to run into one for a mirror match. I played more experienced opponents here than in some of the GTs I've gone to. And I, oddly enough, had to really earn this because of the rerolls, and I did not bring that much money to this. And it was awesome, and I kind of wish I brought more. But because the thing that kept my opponent in that 3rd game was all the rerolls for all the the attacks and the hits and the saves, oh my god, and the ward saves, and it was just such a fun and crazy gaming experience when you're playing these events for charity. Will this be an ITC ranked whatever? Probably not. But it's cool that I won it. So this is my weekend. Thank you all for watching. Turtle Power. I've got a Mega Gargant. I might start playing them in real life. Don't tell me I'm kidding. She knows. She plays Warhammer. She's my tournament partner. Come on, people. Maybe she'll play the army. It's like 4 War Scrolls. Which she's really good with taking notes and things. Maybe I should keep that Gargant because she'll actually kick my... Anyway, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to class today with this wonderful field trip. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you want me to cover something for the channel, you have a question that's burning and itching at you there, leave it in the comments. I will make a video to talk about it. Because again, our whole thing here is helping you and helping the AoS community grow. And please, if you have the chance to go to more events that are for charities, there are events out there for food drives, for raising money for different medical disorders and diseases and everything under the sun where people need help. Age of Sigmar has an amazing community. I know y'all can help if you can. If you can't, that's fine. Spread the word so that people who can help can see it and go. Because that, again, I found this just looking on the Best Coast Pairing app. And I got to go to an event freaking forever. And I won! It's great. Let's all play more Age of Sigmar. And as I say at the end of all our videos, class dismissed. Bye.